If we were to amend AGOA in the reauthorization, what enhancements do you believe would increase its utilization of the program, and what might be the effect of including a digital trade component that reduces barriers to online commerce on the continent?
I believe that the U.S. should engage, starting now, in the development of a bilateral trade relationship with South Africa and its neighboring SACU countries for a variety of reasons. First of all, that's a permanent relationship, one that doesn't have to be renewed. And moreover, it would provide more incentives for the U.S. to invest in South Africa. So I do think that we should embark upon, as we're doing right now with Kenya, in the development of a more durable, permanent trade relationships in terms of a bilateral one. And that would also benefit U.S. exports, which right now suffer from a disadvantage versus European exports, which enjoy about a 15% margin. The other area that I think South Africa could benefit from is in encouraging and partnering with South African institutions in the development of their value chains and their infrastructure, roads, rails, ports, what have you. I think this is an area where the USDFC can partner with not only South African institutions, but such institutions as the African Development Bank to be able to foster making South Africa more competitive in its export sector. On the digital space, I think there's been a lot of controversy. There's a lot of fears and protectionism in South Africa that's inherent in those discussions. I think we just continue to need to put pressure on saying the benefits of having open access and digital trade. I think right now they're not well understood in South Africa, and I think there's a protectionist element there, a fear element that I think needs to be overcome, and I think it can be overcome with persistence and more education on those issues.
What are specifically some of the conditions that you would like to see South Africa abiding by, especially for its continued participation in AGOA?
In this time of strategic competition, especially on the African continent, with South Africa in particular, the United States needs to adopt, in my view, and humbly saying, a more nuanced approach. The U.S., in our view, should really focus on a bottom-up approach. By this we mean direct more resources towards empowering civil society, citizens, key institutions that support democracy in South Africa. And this is because it is these parts of our society that have stood up as a bulwark against state capture, corruption, and other inequities that have happened in our country. The other aspect that I wanted to really emphasize here is that there's a need to strengthen private sector collaboration between the United States and South Africa, which will, in our view, foster greater economic growth, which benefits both parties. Finally, I also want to emphasize the following, that maybe there's a need to transition from, as you indicated, this aid-centric approach towards a trade engagement, leveraging on opportunities that are presented by the African Continental Free Trade Agreement in the area.
On anti-corruption efforts, how can the U.S. do it in a way that it actually breaks through but doesn't seem like we are finger-wagging? Mr. Maroleng.
Yeah, I would basically say it will be done by supporting key institutions that support and uphold good governance, especially in South Africa. These institutions are numerous. However, they have suffered in the past years in South Africa during a period that was described as state capture by attempts to also capture them, undermine their authority, and ensure that their effectiveness is reduced. So I would say one of the key things that the U.S. can do is to support these key institutions that support democracy and good governance.